In 1986, Congress passed a sweeping tax reform bill that was supposed to end every real estate shelter in America. And the one carve-out nobody debated, buried in Section 170H, has generated more than $40 billion in deductions the IRS still cannot fully account for. Nobody has explained who put it there. Nobody has named what it cost. To understand what happened, you need to understand what a conservation easement is. A landowner signs a legal agreement. They promise never to develop their property. In exchange, the IRS lets them deduct the difference between what the land was worth before the restriction and what it is worth now. On paper, it sounds like a reasonable trade. You give up the right to build. The government rewards you for protecting open land. National parks benefit. Wildlife corridors are preserved. For decades, that was the story. Environmental groups backed it. Congress renewed it quietly year after year. And nobody looked too closely at the math. Here is what the math actually looked like. A group of investors pools money and buys a parcel of undeveloped land, say, a stretch of Georgia pine forest for $3 million. They hire an appraiser. That appraiser values the land not at $3 million, but at $14 million based on what it could theoretically become. A luxury golf resort, a resort hotel, a 100-lot subdivision. Then they donate the development rights. They never build anything. They never change the land at all, but on paper they have surrendered $14 million in value. The IRS allows them to deduct it. Investors who put in $3 million walk away with $5 million in tax savings. Every dollar spent returns $1.67, not from building anything, not from creating anything, from a signature on a piece of paper and an appraisal written to a number. The IRS noticed. By 2016, they had added syndicated conservation easements to the dirty dozen, their official annual list of the most abusive tax schemes in America. They issued notices. They issued warnings. They told promoters this was illegal. Then they did something strange. They continued allowing the deductions while cases worked through tax court. The Senate Finance Committee opened an investigation and found that between 2010 and 2017 alone, promoters had claimed $36 billion in deductions. $36 billion. The committee called it a massive fraud. But here is where the official explanation falls apart. The strategy was not new in 2010. It had been building for 20 years. And the 1986 carve-out that made it possible was never amended. Not once. Now here is the part they do not put in the press releases. The land trust industry, the nonprofits that receive these easement donations and hold them permanently, collected billions in fees during this period. Some land trusts received 2 to 4% of the appraised value just to accept a donation. On a $14 million appraisal, that is up to $560,000 for paperwork. A 2020 Senate report identified land trusts that had accepted hundreds of syndicated deals, knowing the appraisals were inflated, taking the fees, filing the forms regardless. The same appraisers appeared on deal after deal. The same promoters, the same networks. The Senate report named them. It documented the machine, but go back to 1986. The carve-out in Section 170H that made this entire structure possible, it was not debated on the floor of Congress. There is no recorded sponsor. There is no committee hearing where someone stood up and explained why real estate development rights deserved permanent, unlimited deduction treatment while every other shelter was being closed. It appeared in the final bill, and nobody asked why. The people who used this were not small operators. IRS data obtained through a Senate subpoena showed the average deduction per investor in a syndicated deal was $450,000. These were high-income professionals, doctors, executives, business owners, who paid promoters between 30 and 40 cents of every deduction dollar they claimed. Hundreds of millions of dollars moved through this system every year. The land trusts that blessed the transactions received their fees. The appraisers received theirs. And the government, by its own estimate, lost $17 billion in tax revenue in 8 years. One provision placed into law without explanation created a mechanism that, at scale, became one of the largest documented tax schemes in American history. The people who wrote it knew what they were building. The people who protected it knew what it was worth, and the rest of us paid the difference. The IRS is still litigating hundreds of these cases. Some promoters have been convicted. The provision in Section 170H still exists. Nobody has been asked on the record why it was written the way it was. So ask yourself this: if a loophole that large appeared in a bill without a sponsor, survived 40 years without a debate, and drained $17 billion from public funds, who was it really written for?